my working role within the Pizzini family is that I look after the marketing and the branding for Pizzini wines. I'm one of the granddaughters of Roberto and Rosetta Pizzini, and the eldest daughter of Alfredo and Katrina Pizzini. Primarily we are a winery, and we make wine and we focus on making Italian grape varieties into wine. We have a cellar door and adjacent to that a cooking school, our Tavola cooking school. So my mother Katrina Pizzini runs the cooking school, and we also own a little boutique hotel in Whitfield called the Mountain View Hotel.
We had a terrific upbringing. There's no question we worked. The beauty about it was that there was a real sense of freedom, and the tobacco farm housed quite a number of share farmers, so there's a lot of families here. So I think there's about 34 young children which were going to the local primary school at that period in the 60s, and so we had a real multicultural community, of Yugoslavs and Spanish and Northern Italians and Southern Italians, and so we really had an enormous playground.
There wasn't a lot of money in the industry when we were growing up, and all family members were expected to pull their weight, so to speak. Most weekends were spent helping our parents out in the fields, growing tobacco. No matter how menial the task was, we were expected to do it.
Everything different, Like I settle in quick. I like out the country, like that. And when happy I have a couple mountain around. Well, I left big mountain back home, and that's what I like to, Yeah. And be happy.
I'm Katrina Pizzini, and this is my mother-in-law, Rosetta Pizzini. And I have been part of the Pizzini family for about 40 years now. So got married when I was 17 and became part of the larger Pizzini family from a very small family of my own. I married into an extended Italian family.
I went away for quite a few years. I lived here, I grew up here, went away and came back about 2 years ago when Katrina was kicking off with the cooking school. So I always call myself the understudy. So I help Katrina, I'm her assistant. And if she has to be away, I teach the class for her. I was born quite a few years after the 3 children that came to Australia with mum and dad. So I had the really interesting experience of growing up with a huge extended family. So my grandparents came to live with us. They were brought over from Italy by the 4 brothers that immigrated to Australia. So they lived with us. Then as I got older, my siblings all got married, which made the family even bigger. And a couple of cousins came over from Italy. So the family in the house, there must have been about 10 of us. So for me, it was about community.
In the 50s, my grandfather, my nono, applied to come and work along with his 3 other brothers. The Australian government said to him, "You can come, but you can't bring your wife." And he said, "Well, I'm not going unless my wife and my children can come with me." So after a few nervous days, the government said, "Okay, that's fine." And so he got on a boat with my nonna Rosetta and their 3 children at the time, spent a month on the boat. Initially, they settled with their families in the Alpine region in a town called Urobin, and that's where the first Pizzinis, as 4 brothers, picked potatoes and thought, well, this is just far too hard. Let's do some tobacco share farming. From that, they worked out that they could pool their resources and buy their first farm, which my uncle Alfonso still owns in Urobin with the original tobacco kiln. They then decided that the King Valley would be a good place to buy another farm and produce tobacco. So 3 of the brothers moved to the King Valley near Whitfield. They eventually became the largest tobacco producing company in the Southern Hemisphere, which I suppose now we know the harmful effects of tobacco, but we can't underestimate the importance of the tobacco industry to this region, and establishing it as a place for, I suppose, many young families to live. At that time, there was, aside from the 4 Pizzini brothers and their families, 17 other share farming families working on their farms producing tobacco. But in the 70s, the tobacco industry started to go into decline and a quota system was introduced, and it was at that time that the brothers' children were becoming of an age where they were starting to get married and have children and wanted to take more responsibility on the farms.
I finished schooling in 1980. I was logged in to do horticultural science at university, deferred for a year and planted my first vines. Never to go back to university. I was constantly working on the property, actually grew tobacco for 7 years till I could afford to get rid of it. I didn't want to grow tobacco, but that was the only source of income I had. So we worked very hard, and today we have 2 properties with over 200 acres of vines. Chrismont Wines, we made our first wines in 1996 now, but didn't really commence selling until the year 2000. And Chrismont is an amalgamation of family names, personal family members' names and so forth.
We've been here since about 1959, 1960 when the Pizzini family bought land in the King Valley. So we're fortunate enough that the wine industry was looking for growers to produce grapes for the wine industry. So back in 78 we planted our vineyards to grow grapes, for the wine industry, and we suffered a number of setbacks with overproduction, and it really gave us the determination to produce our own brand, to have some sort of control of our destiny. And that was one of the great decisions that the family made, because the industry has flourished for the last 30 years, and which has given the opportunity for the next generation of family members to be part of the business. For some unknown reason, all my 4 children are basically involved in it, and they all have different skills. It's always a challenge to work together as a family, but it's worthwhile working through those challenges and coming out at the other end.
When I was first married, for the first 12 months, my husband Fred and I actually lived in a granny flat attached to Rosetta and Robert's house. And for 12 months, I really looked over Rosetta's shoulder and watched what she did with her preparation of food, making the tomato puree, making cannelli together, and having gnocchi days, and emulated it in my own kitchen for my own family, and it helped me in my adventures for the next 40 years, I suppose. Our cooking school classes are very popular because I think they associate Italians with pasta and gnocchi, and the young Italian kids come and learn how to make pasta and gnocchi from us, because they may not have spent much time with their nonna and their mums have been busy working, so those family skills may have been lost. So they're coming back to learn them from us. There you go.
Mum's brother David Nicholson. Mum's brother.
Food is emotive from my experience. It brings people together. It brings the family together. It gives you that hour where you don't argue, where you get along, where you remember. And I think for Italians, that spending that time relaxing around food, around having a good glass of wine, just brings people together. Food is family.
Cheers.